growing up, I played a lot of baseball. I mean, that's what I loved. That's what I really excelled at. It's what I really enjoyed doing, a lot better than being in a classroom. But what I started learning along the way, and what I really take away from it now, is what do the coaches do? The coaches, if we didn't meet the expectation, the coaches would make you run laps. If we didn't play to the level that they expect, they'd sit you on the bench. It's very reactive. But what I take away now is what the coaches also did that was proactive. All of my baseball coaches growing up would always make sure that they coached and they taught us the skill sets we needed to be a better player, to be a better fit for the team, to move forward and build success. So what my takeaway now is different now than what it was when I was playing is, yeah, I ran a lot of laps. But I also recognize now the need for being proactive. How do we instill and how do we build the skill sets and how do we make individuals come together as a team? So when we think about proactive versus reactive, behaviorally, all of the research that we see now is focusing more on proactive. It's not about the heat of the moments. It's not about the individual strategies that we do when a child is melting down within a crisis. What it's really focusing on now is what are we doing as a support? What are we doing to build the capacity? One of the things I'm always asked as I go from school to school, and I've been to all schools repeatedly, what do I do in the heat of the moments? If I'm asking myself that question, am I being reactive or am I being proactive? Am I putting myself in a place to be a support for that student, or am I putting myself in a place of where I am constantly putting out fires and running around and chasing what's happening instead of getting ahead of what's happening? So proactive versus reactive. Yogi Berra once said, baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Forget about his math, but he's right. The mental piece, the preparation. How do we prepare for life? How do we prepare for class? We make assumptions that students come to us with the skill sets already instilled. And that's an assumption that we cannot afford to make, as we're seeing further and further in the news, in our classrooms, in our divisions. But here's my question. Why are we so hesitant to be proactive? We're quick to talk about what the child did in the classroom. We're quick to be on the phone, calling in for administration. We're quick to be handing out reactive measures. But if we take all the energy that we use as being reactive and make it proactive, how much further can we get? So what we're going to look at a little bit is, what does proactive mean? We can say proactive, but what does that actually mean? When we think about some of the research, we think about Maslow, we think about his deficiency needs. Those have been some great examples already tonight, speaking about the comfort closet, speaking about mindfulness, looking at where some of these things developmentally are we talking about. We talk about B.F. Skinner and his research and how he tells us that with behaviors you can always track it down to one specific stimulus. And the funny thing that always comes in my mind when I'm thinking of what do we do in the heat of the moments is we have a de-escalation cycle, and we could talk about that, and we could go through those steps, all 6 of them, but the first step is always what triggered the child. So if the first step in the de-escalation cycle is being proactive, then that's something that we need to look at on a consistent basis. Because what Bandura is telling us in his social learning theory, we as people, we're social. We as people are observable. We observe. That's how we learn. That's how we react. Whatever we find that is favorable to us, we observe. How do we get that? How do we make this happen? So we have our internal factors, we also have our environmental and our external factors. And a lot of times people think, well, you know what? A child comes to me, they should already know how to behave in a classroom. Okay? But what am I doing for external? Okay, that's your expectation of what those internal factors should be, but what are you doing externally to support? So what Bandura is really surmising is that the internal and external factors are a reciprocal relationship. You cannot have one before the other. Because out of any of these theories that we look at, you have three different types of reactions. Positive, tolerable, and toxic. Positive being, okay, I gotta go get a shot from the doctor today. I can do that, man up, let's do this. Tolerable being, oh my goodness, I just got into a car wreck. But I know that if my sister or family member is there, they're gonna help me through it. But then I have toxic stress. These are these things that happen that are strong, that are ongoing, that are pervasive. And what they've been given a name is aversive childhood experiences. This is just but a few of the lists. So take a look at this real quick. This is done from a national survey, all 50 states, and the responses of individuals 17 years or younger. The percentages are how many of those individuals 17 years or younger have experienced that. So let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you know an individual that has experienced one. Keep your hands raised if you know an individual that has experienced two. Keep it raised if you know they've experienced three. I'm going to stop right there, but I want you to look around. I want you to identify that this is an ongoing, growing concern. Why is it a concern? With the research and with that survey, almost half have experienced one or two of these ACEs. So pick any of those. Can our children come to school, turn it off? Or are they carrying it with them in their book bag as they go from class to class? 3 or more. All of y'all had your hands up for 3. 7 to 17% nationwide, but we're closer to 100% in this room that know of an individual in our schools that have experienced 3 or more of these ACEs. But what does that mean? Okay, they experience it. How does that affect them? How does that affect us? Because if you've experienced 4 of these indicators, you are 15 times more likely to commit suicide or attempt to. You are 4 times more likely to abuse substances later on in life, whether it be alcohol or drugs. You're 3 times more likely to develop depression. What behaviors do you associate in your classrooms that can be associated with depression, can be associated with substance abuse? 5 of these indicators, 76 more times likely to develop life-occurring conditions. Life, not just school. So we're going beyond high school now. Now we're talking about a lifelong effect. If we start building a nurturing environment within our schools. Dr. Biglin, out of University of Oregon, projects when you build a nurturing environment within a school, within the first month, you're seeing less office referrals and teachers. Y'all get to teach. And I know that's what you want to do. Within the first year, better attendance, better academics. Within the first 2 to 3 years, we start actually seeing a better outcomes for those students that are either going through RTI or on the verge of being put into RTI because of maybe ADHD, maybe because they are experiencing some behaviors that we just want to look at. But within 5 to 15 years, now we're projecting life-changing occurrences. We're looking at less depression, fewer conduct disorders. The students that we're concerned about that one day they're going to end up in a juvenile detention facility or later on in life end up in prison. If we can start working within a nurturing environment now, then we're projecting that we can stave that off for these kids for their futures. So really, what am I doing up here? I'm challenging you. I'm asking you to take one step to being proactive. Whether it be mindfulness, great presentation by the way, whether it be developing a culture of kindness, another great presentation, whether it be buying in to a positive behavioral supports, whether it be developing social skills curriculums, whether it be instituting a responsive classroom model for all of those students, whether it be developing social emotional learning opportunities throughout the day. Let's find one step to take in the direction of being proactive. Because I want to reiterate, why are we so hesitant when we have 60 years of research? And I'm not going to calculate the years of experience within this room that can testify that this is the direction that we need to go. When we find ourselves hesitating.